It was mid-September, and school had started last week. I was a senior in high school, and every day after school I would have to walk down to the middle school to pick up my 8-year-old brother Tommy. After that, we would walk home together. Today was like every other day. I grabbed my brother from the middle school parking lot and we walked home together. The only difference today was when we got home, Mom and Dad weren't there when we got there. They weren't rushing to get ready for work like they normally do. Apparently, they had to go in early and do a double in the ER, so it was just us. They said they weren't going to be home until noon tomorrow. The day went on as it usually does. Tommy went to his bedroom to do his homework, and I sat down in front of the TV, playing video games all day. At some point, Tommy came down, whining about food. I made mac and cheese for dinner and we sat around watching TV for the rest of the night. We didn't have school tomorrow, so Tommy and I stayed up later than usual. It was 1 in the morning, and the last movie of the night was going to be over soon. I finished off the last of the popcorn we had and set down the bowl on the coffee stand. The end credits were about to roll in, so I grabbed the TV remote off the table. I was just about to shut the TV off when a loud thud came from upstairs. Tommy jumped and grabbed my arm. Thankfully, he didn't scream. What was that? He stuttered. I looked down at my little brother's face and I could see the pure terror he was feeling right now. I don't know, Tommy. Did you let that cat into the house again? I said. Tommy shook his head. No, I haven't seen him for a while now. I thought he got a new owner, Tommy said. I started to get a little freaked out, but just brushed it off. A window must be open, I said. I pushed Tommy off my arm and stood up. I'll go up and check it out. No, Shane, please don't go. Please, Tommy begged. But I ignored him. Honestly, looking back on it now, I regret ignoring him. Tommy followed me up the stairs because as much as he didn't want to go upstairs with me, he didn't want to be alone downstairs. Tommy, maybe you should stay down here, I said, not really wanting him to go up with me, just in case there was someone up there. Tommy shook his head violently. There might be someone up there, I said. Then why are you going up? He asked. What do you think you'll do if there is someone up there? Beat them up, obviously, I said, shrugging. Tommy kept shaking his head at me, refusing to leave my side stubbornly. I sighed, but started up the stairs again. I made sure Tommy was tucked behind me, so in case anything was there, he was shielded behind my back. We carefully walked to the first bedroom, which was mine. I quietly pushed the door open and peeked inside. I didn't see any movement inside, thankfully. Suddenly, a loud crash came from down the hall in Tommy's room. I quickly grabbed my baseball bat from my bedroom and started down the hallway slowly. Tommy gripped the back of my shirt as we walked. I gripped the bat in my right hand as I used my left to grab Tommy's doorknob. I pushed the door open and looked inside his bedroom. Standing by the window, I saw a tall man dressed in black. The moonlight spilled in behind him, casting a shadow across the small room. The man looked over at us, and I watched a large, sickening smile crawl onto his face. My eyes widened as fear instantly grabbed my heart. I slammed Tommy's door shut, spun around, and grabbed my brother, and I bolted down the stairs. About halfway down them, I jumped and slammed onto the floor. I could hear the man's footsteps running after us. I made a break for the door, and Tommy screamed. Right before I reached it, I tripped and hit the floor. Something skinned the top of my head as I fell. I looked up and saw a knife sticking in the wall. I looked over, and the man stood next to my brother, a knife and fork in his hands. I could see some kind of liquid running down the utensils. I jumped up and shoved the man as hard as I possibly could, and sent him flying into the living room and over the couch. I ripped my brother off the floor and bolted out the front door. We ran into the woods that surrounded our house and were going to hide from that crazy man. He's coming, Tommy kept screaming. Shut up or he'll find us, I hissed to him. He shut his mouth and quietly cried while hugging me. I ran to the hiding place I found when I was a kid. It was a hollowed-out tree with a small hole at the base of the stump. It wasn't too far from the house and perfect right now. I found the tree quickly and shoved Tommy inside first. The hole was barely big enough for both of us to fit. I grabbed some leaves and pulled them to the opening to try and cover us up as best as I could. Tommy was breathing heavily, and I had to cover his mouth with my hand to quiet him. He wrapped his arms around my torso and clung to me like I was his only life vest. Soon we could hear the sounds of leaves crunching coming toward us. It stopped nearby, and Tommy's grip tightened around me. It felt like forever when we heard the sounds of leaves crunching again. We waited and could hear the sounds fading as he ran away from us. It sounded like he was running away from the house, too. We sat there for a while before Tommy calmed down enough to leave the hole. I got out first and looked around, trying to see any movement. Thankfully, there was none. We ran back to the house, running as if the man was still behind us. When we finally made it back home, we locked all the doors and windows and checked the entire house before we could relax again. I called the police and they arrived at our house 15 minutes later. They combed our entire house again and asked a bunch of questions. They took a picture of the picture frame the man had broken in Tommy's room, of the knife that was embedded into our wall, and the drips of blood that came off his knife and fork. They took a sample of the blood and called our parents, explaining what had happened. As the officers wrapped it up, I stepped toward him. "So, what do you think that man was doing here?" I asked. The police looked at each other and started to tell us about a new serial killer who had been breaking into people's houses at night. Apparently, he liked children the most, so he chose Tommy as his next target. The worst part was, after the man killed the parents, he would kidnap the child and bring them home to cook them alive and devour their flesh. In total, there had been 4 bodies with the same MO, 3 boys and 1 girl. So if we didn't stay up that night, I would have been dead and Tommy would have been eaten.